Hello everyone, welcome back to my class. This is Rumana Ali. I hope you all are doing well. In today's class, let us discuss about the different factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. So firstly, we have to understand certain points before we study about the different factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis, and that are cardinal points, which was given by a scientist, Sachs. So every factor will be having three cardinal points. For example, if temperature is a factor, then it is going to have 3 points, that are maximum point, maximum temperature, optimum temperature, and minimum temperature. Now, minimum temperature means the temperature below which the rate of photosynthesis would get stops. So below the rate or below the minimum range of temperature, the rate of photosynthesis would get stopped or it would get affected. Whereas the optimum temperature is the point where it is going to show the rate of process. Here the process what we are talking about is photosynthesis. So optimum temperature, at optimum temperature, the rate of photosynthesis will be high. So this is the cardinal point at which the rate of the different processes will be high. The next one is maximum point, and at the maximum temperature or beyond the maximum temperature, the rate of photosynthesis will get affected. For example, the photosynthesis is a process which requires 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. For example, in C3 plants, 10 to 20 degrees Celsius is an optimum temperature that increases the rate of photosynthesis. So if this temperature is below 4 degrees Celsius, 4 degree is the minimum temperature. Now when this range goes below this temperature, then the photosynthesis would get stopped. And even in the case of maximum temperature also, if it is going to beyond 38 to 40 degrees Celsius, then also the rate of photosynthesis would get affected. So in this way, each and every factor will be having three cardinal points that affect the rate of photosynthesis. The next thing that we need to remember is Blackman's limiting factor. Blackman's law of limiting factor. So according to this law, the factor which is in its own low or the minimum concentration, which is present in its low or the minimum concentration, that is going to decide the rate of photosynthesis. Here we'll take one example to understand it clearly. We know that for the process of photosynthesis, the factors like carbon dioxide and water, which is a raw material, chlorophyll, which is a pigment, and sunlight. So these are certain essential factors that are required to carry out the process of photosynthesis. For example, 10 units of carbon dioxide are present, 10 units of water, 10 units of chlorophyll, and 10 units of sunlight are present. Now, as the concentration of all the factors, as the amount of all the factors are available in a constant or in a proper amount, then the rate of photosynthesis will also be steady. But if the water is present as 2 units, now this is called as the limited factor. In spite of having all these factors in a proper amount, but one factor is not present in a proper amount, then that limited factor would have effect on the rate of photosynthesis. So this is about the law called Blackman's law, according to which the limited factor, the factor which is present in the minimum concentration or in the low concentration, would decide the rate of photosynthesis. Factors are classified into two types: external factors and internal factors. External factors are light, oxygen concentration, carbon dioxide concentration, water. and even temperature. So these are the external factors. Now light, when we talk about the factor light, we need to take 3 points into consideration, and that are, first thing is quality, the next one is intensity, and the third one is duration. Quality of light is nothing but which type of wavelength is available for the process of photosynthesis. And in the last sessions we have already discussed about absorption spectrum and action spectrum, where I explained you about the wavelengths, and we know blue and the red are the wavelengths that are absorbed easily by the chlorophyll pigment. So the quality means wavelength. Now intensity, based on the intensity of the light, the plants are divided or classified into two main types, that are xeophytes and heliophytes. Xeophytes are the plants that can grow better in the lesser amount of light, whereas the heliophytes are the plants that can grow only in the presence of bright light. So based on the intensity of the light, the plants are classified as xeophytes and heliophytes. Now let us talk about the duration. Duration of light is nothing but photoperiod. So all the plants require at least 10 to 12 hours of light. So this is the duration. This is the photoperiod that is required by the plants to carry out the process of photosynthesis. Now we are talking about the factors. So if the intensity of the light is more, then the rate of the photosynthesis will also be high. But if the intensity of the light is much more, then the rate of photosynthesis would get affected and it is going to be decreases. Now the next factor is oxygen concentration. So when the oxygen concentration increases, at that time the plant undergoes a process called photorespiration, and this is the process where the carbon dioxide that has been fixed in the plants, it is going to released out. If the carbon dioxide has not been fixed, there are no chances for the plants to perform photosynthesis. In this way, the increase in the concentration of the oxygen will decreases the rate of photosynthesis. The next one is carbon dioxide concentration. We know that carbon dioxide is very much important in the process of photosynthesis. If the concentration of the carbon dioxide is getting slightly increases, then the rate of photosynthesis will also get increases. But if the amount of the carbon dioxide increases in a more amount, then this more carbon dioxide concentration affects the rate of photosynthesis, and the photosynthesis would get stopped because of the presence of more carbon dioxide concentration. The next one is temperature. Temperature is also a very essential factor in the rate of photosynthesis, or that affect the rate of photosynthesis. Slight increase in temperature will increases the rate of photosynthesis, but the more increase, but if the temperature is present in a very high amount, or if the temperature is very high, then the enzymatic actions would get affected, that results in the decreasing, or that results in preventing the rate of photosynthesis. If the temperature becomes very high, then the enzymatic actions would get affected, the photosynthesis will be decreases, and ultimately it would get stopped, and this situation is called as stress situation. So in this situation, the plant releases a hormone called abscisic acid. So by the release of abscisic acid, the stomata would get closes. The closure of stomata takes place, and if the stomata will closes, then there will be no exchange of gases, and the rate of photosynthesis would get affected. So this is about the factor called temperature. Now the last one, or last external factor, is water. Water is actually a raw material. So the amount of the water will be having a negligible effect on the rate of photosynthesis. So it is quite obvious. So this is about the external factors. Now let us talk about the internal factors. So the internal factors include protoplasmic factor, chlorophyll content, number of chloroplasts, number of stomata and its position. So the first one is protoplasmic factor. It is an imaginative or hypothetical factor. Scientists believe that the cytoplasm of the cell contains some of the substances or some of the factors that decides the rate of photosynthesis. So it is an imaginative factor. The next one is chlorophyll content. Chlorophyll content means we are going to discuss about the assimilatory number here. Number of the carbon dioxide molecule which are going to be fixed by the number of the chlorophyll molecule per hour, that is called as assimilatory number. Here assimilatory number is nothing but the amount of carbon dioxide which gets fixed by the chlorophyll pigment per hour. This is called as assimilatory number. So this is a factor that has effect on variegated leaves. Variegated leaves means which are not green in color. So based on the pigment chlorophyll present in these leaves, the rate of photosynthesis would get decided. Next one is number of chloroplasts. The number of chloroplasts are more, then the rate of photosynthesis will be high. And even if the number of stomata will be more, at that time also the rate of photosynthesis will be high, and the position of the stomata will also be a factor that affects the rate of photosynthesis. Whether the stomata is present on the upper epidermis or on the lower epidermis, so this is about the position. So number of chloroplast, number of stomata and its position will also be termed, or these are also the important internal factors that decides the rate of photosynthesis. So this is about the external factors and internal factors that decides or that affects the rate of photosynthesis. So here our chapter photosynthesis in higher plants ends. In this chapter we have discussed about the site of photosynthesis, and even we learned about the light reaction. In the light reaction, two pathways are taken place, that are non-cyclic photophosphorylation and cyclic photophosphorylation. And even we have studied about the dark reaction, that is also called as C3 cycle. In C4 plants, C4 cycle will also takes place, and even we have discussed about the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. So this is about the chapter photosynthesis in higher plants. I'll be back with a new chapter in the next session. So meet you in next class. Goodbye.